Hey friends, we are looking at the Temple of the Holy Grail building set. This is made by Tokmoc, set number 66037, with 2,388 pieces, and I want to thank Tokmoc for sending this out to me. This is a vignette scene with several scenes from the finale from the third Indiana Jones movie, which is called The Last Crusade. And so you're seeing here the exterior of the temple as they enter the the main chamber, and then the different tests that they have to go through, test 1, 2, and the third test, and then the final test here with all of the chalices and cups. It does come with 5 minifigures, well, maybe 5.5. We'll look at those more carefully in a minute. All right, but let's zoom in. Let's take a look. This is the exterior. It's known as the Temple of the Sun in the film, and also called Temple of the Grail. It's known by those two names. There's the Indiana Jones figure for scale, and it's a pretty good recreation of what you see in the film. At a glance, you get the sense for what it is. And let's move Indy on. So here in the central chamber, we'll see that it has a lot of stonework along the back. It has an inscription. There are decorations here. Every decoration you see is a printed piece. There are no stickers in this set, which is nice. So that includes that one on the center there. This has an action feature. So if I just turn this knob, you'll see that skull spin around. And I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent. I just watched the film last week, and the best I can guess is that they're trying to show maybe a head rolling out of the first test, which they're the steps for it, and rolling out and down. That might be what they're trying to show. And there's other blood and gore and more skulls here. So, and then there's a gun. So I'm not really sure what that is all about, but they do make really nice use of just making this kind of feel like an ornate first entry area. You see these little tiny microfig, like trophy scale figures, and then a little decoration up at their top there. So moving on to the first test. This is the test that is called the Breath of God, and it has a quote underneath here. It says, "Only the penitent man will pass." And what you'll see here is we have bunch of cobwebs like you see in the film. There's a bunch, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a spider, some couple of lamps, a little bit of blood on here where maybe the first guy had gotten decapitated. And I believe his name was Masad. That's what the comic book named him, I think. And there is a trap in here. So let's put somebody in there. So I'm going to put this guy in here. We'll put him right there. Okay, so all we do here is we're going to pull this lever, and then you'll see the trap activate. So here we go. There we go. So there's two things that were supposed to happen. There we go. There's a big like cutting gear thing here and another one here, and they both come out of the floor and the walls. And let's reset it again. Let's try that again. So okay, so let's put him in a different spot this time. Maybe we put him right here without being on the studs. Okay, so I'm going to pull that pull the lever again. Let's see how much damage we can get. Let's do a different angle too. A little bit like that. Get this down. All right, here we go. Boom. It's a pretty dramatic destruction. I mean, there's pieces all over the place. This piece came up, which is kind of cool, printed piece. It came off. The floor came up. Everything jammed up together. These pieces blew apart. I mean, it's a pretty dramatic destruction that is happening. All right, so that's what happened. And what else we got here? We got a little bit of greenery back here. Got a couple of torches back here too. So, okay, so that's that one. The next trial is the section where the floor falls through if you don't step on the right words. So you're supposed to step, let's get a little closer here. You're supposed to step on specific letters to get past this floor. And if you don't step on the right letters, the floor gives way and there is a almost seemingly bottomless pit, right? So you fall to your death. It does come with this book. I'm not sure what this book is. I think maybe it is uh, Henry Jones Sr.'s Grail Diary. That might be what that is, but they give you two of them. So I'm not sure why that's there. But just to show you what happens here, I'm going to turn the dial upside down. And when you do that, and you were to step on any of these, they actually fall through. There's four of them where they just give way. All four of those like that. They give way and you'll fall through, to your death or whatever, right? So it's nice that they built this model up. It's several bricks tall so that you can have all these mechanisms inside of it. All right, and then to reset it, that's what the knob is. So it's not, the knob actually doesn't activate a trap more than resetting the trap. So now we're back to it all kind of being a level. And you can see there's all these different letters that are in here, and they are all printed, which is kind of nice. Behind there's a little bit of a decoration. There's a snake coming out of the wall there too, and a couple of barbs that they use there. All right, so if you make it through that, you're now standing in this hallway. And through this hallway now, you're looking down and seeing that there is no way across to the other side. That's the idea there, right? So that's that the second to last test. And this one's called the Path of God. Only in the leap from the lion's head will he prove his worth. That's what that one says. Oh, I almost forgot to read the previous one. The word of God, only in the footsteps of God will he proceed. Okay, so you've made it past this. You're about to get through here. And this is where Indy was standing. And he was just like, there is no path. I don't know how I can get across. So what you see in this build, there is a bridge. And beneath that bridge is a skeleton. Like it's quite bleak down there. Let's see if we can get an image there. There we go. There's a skeleton. You can see it's kind of dark and, dangerous right down there. Now this particular bridge, I'm not really sure how it works. So it spins around like this and now it becomes solid. So maybe this is meant to make you think you can't see it. And then you flip it around and maybe now you can see it. I'm not sure how they were trying to represent this particular trial. And there's another thing too, which is it comes with this little piece that's on a hinge here. And I couldn't figure out how this relates to the bridge. It feels like it's meant to maybe clip into this bridge, but once you do that, I don't really know what the purpose of it is. Or maybe, so I'm not really sure how this works. In the film, what's happening is where Indy is standing right here. When he's standing here, his point of view, oh, sorry, Indy, his point of view from what he sees across the bridge is painted to look like the whole cliff, the sheer cliff that goes straight down from here. So maybe it would have been better to make pieces that looked like that, or maybe looked black, or maybe make this whole bridge black and with a little bit of tan on the very end of it. And then that might have looked like, from his point of view, it might have looked like there's nothing there. So, and then have it flip around and then be a full bridge. So maybe that would have been a little bit better, but I don't know. That's how they made it. Maybe the idea here is as you're just playing with it, maybe as you're crossing, if you do it incorrectly, you can tip the person over and then they fall into the pit. So maybe that's the way it's meant to be, just for play. Okay, so let's say you made it that far, and now you're in the final chamber. So this one does not have a plaque on it, but it does have another figure. So if you look here, this is the Grail Knight. down here. So this is the knight that he encounters, and he's actually sitting cross-legged on the floor. He's got a sword, and he's got his own book too. So this particular knight, here he is. Let's get him in focus here. The knight has a really nice beard. He's got his helmet, got a backpack for some reason, and he is sitting cross-legged. So these are his legs just kind of pressed down and put into place here, and that's how they tell you to put his legs. They don't give you anything to attach those legs to him, so that's why I don't count him as a full minifigure. But they have you do the legs the other way around so that the holes show. I went ahead and turned them around because I didn't like the way that looked with the holes. But you do get this particular character who is there guarding it, and he's been there for, I want to say, was it 700 years? It was a long, long time. So you now get to select from all the different cups, and you have to choose the right cup. And every single one of these is shiny, and there's two kinds of gold shiny ones. There's like a kind of a normal goblet. There's a larger goblet. There's a bunch of chrome ones. They did a bucket in this kind of chrome color. We make smaller ones in chrome, smaller ones in gold, and then there's one plain brown one. And right, so that's probably the Holy Grail. I think it would have been better if they had made the brown one in this size, because in the film it is a very modest cup that looks a lot more like a cup and not like a goblet. It doesn't have a thin like neck to it at all. So if they had just swapped the colors on these two, it might have been perfect. And then here's the water where you're to test it. You drink from it, and then you'll find out if you chose wisely or not. And over in the corner, another skull, more torches kind of to light the area. And you can see it's quite ornate back here too. And another one of those lions. These decorations, this print all the way along the back is pretty nice. And the tops of these are finished off pretty well too. For each of these sections, I do a reasonable job kind of showing you, or they do a reasonable job just kind of cleaning it up along the top there so that it doesn't just disappear. And even in the mid sections, they've put some decorations in to make it nice as well. Let's turn around so you can see the back too. Not that much to see, but we'll zoom out a little bit. Right, so this is the back sections. The most elaborate one is probably this guy here, and the contraption as it's getting set. And you have this rubber band that creates that tension that forces this gear through there, the giant saw blade. And then the back of this kind of plain. The rest of it is pretty plain, not really meant to be seen from this side. So that's what we're looking at there. Here's a closer look at the figures that you get. So on the left, we have either Masad or his friend that goes in after him, and they get their heads cut off, both of them. He comes with a gun. He does have printing on the side of his arm. You can see there, but it's not fully printed, so you end up with bare skin on his arms. It's a really weird choice. I think if they had just molded the entire arm that green color, the sort of olive green, I think it would have been more successful if they just molded it in that color rather than trying to print the green on the arm. He has this very worried look on his face, you can see there under his turban. And then next to him is Dr. Elsa Schneider, and she's got that mischievous look. She's got a blonde, like a ponytail, and pretty good costume on as well. That matches the way that we remember her looking near the end of that film. Next up, we have Walter Donovan, and his face is not, maybe a little bit overdone. So the graphic designers kind of were a little bit heavy-handed with the way that they created the faces and the graphic design there. So not the best looking face there. And if you look at his suit, it's, I think all the strokes are maybe just too heavy. So it ends up looking like he's wearing a bunch of calculators or something, or a lot of pockets. So it's a little bit too overdone. They should have chose colors that were not so bold there, I think. He does have his pistol that he shoots Indiana Jones's father with, and he does come with this alternate head so that you can do this. There you go. So you can see him after he is chosen poorly. He doesn't look so hot. All right, next to him is Professor Henry Jones Sr., and he's got pretty good coloring. His torso looks pretty good. I do remember him being in sort of a vest like that. He was always dressed really nicely. He's got some printing on his toes, you see there in brown. The only thing about this, well, first of all, his hat is not quite right. And then if you look at his face, it's not quite right either. So his face, I don't know what's going on here, but again, maybe the colors that he chose were a little bit too bold, and so it just gives the wrong effect. If they had just faded back his beard a little, that might have helped um, make that feel a little bit better. And then we get our Indiana Jones character, and we've seen Indiana Jones before from Lego, and this is a very close version, and he has a pretty good jacket, the shirt, the bullwhip, and the belt with the holsters all in there, as well as his bag. That's all there too. And there are no faces on the back that I remember or recall, so they're all just printed on one side, but they do have the printing on the back, so they're torsos too. My final thoughts, I think this is a set that fans of Indiana Jones are going to want to consider. It's a lot of fun. It's quite a few pieces at 2,400 pieces. It'll take a little bit of time so that I found that it was an enjoyable build. You were never quite sure what you were building, and as you're building the different contraptions, there are very interesting techniques for how they accomplish it, especially this test here. They have cams that run through there that make that happen. So that was pretty cool. There's some unusual things like this bridge I didn't quite understand, and I would have made some adjustments to both the bridge as well as the cup. I think are ones that could have been done. The other thing that is weird is that the knight really could have just had his legs on, and you could have had him just sitting. There's no reason that he has to sit cross-legged like that. That's strange. It's not like he's any lower sitting cross-legged. All right, and then the last thing was that the most difficult part of building this was distinguishing the colors. You can't tell really from this video, but there's a lot of tans here. There is this kind of light putty color, which is different than this, which is a light tan, which is different from this, which is a tan. And that happens throughout. So there's at least 3 or 4 variations that are so close together, especially this light tan and the tan. It's very hard to tell those two apart when you're looking at a 1x1 piece. And when you look at the instructions, they don't look any different in the instructions. And in the instructions, it's kind of a process of elimination to figure out if you've selected the right piece or not. To make it even worse, there's a pearlescent gold here that also doesn't look any different in the instructions. So I found myself looking at the part, looking at all the steps to see if that part was used elsewhere, to figure out which color it was, and then figuring out how many of those I needed to have. And the parts don't have a directory, so you can't figure it out that way. So I think that was the frustration. If you're new to building with these types of sets, that might be a frustration for you as well. Or you could just do process of elimination and then just backtrack as you're doing it. But if you're trying to do it right, it can get frustrating because you'll come to the end and then realize you don't have enough of a certain color because you already used it elsewhere. So there are things like that that happened. It happened to me. I had to swap parts at least 2 or 3 times because I realized I'd used the wrong color. All right, but other than that, I think it is a fun set. It's a really long set, so make sure you have the shelf space for it, but it makes up a really beautiful vignette. I like how they've angled the different pieces, so on a shelf you get to see all the different angles as it's just sitting there. You don't have to do a lot of moving it around. And then the figures, I'd give them kind of maybe a B grade. I don't think they're superb in any way, but they include them, and it's a little bit of a bonus because it's an undocumented feature, you could say. All right, thanks. If you liked the video, hit like and hit subscribe too if you haven't done that. It helps me find additional sets like this in the future. Okay, thanks.